Death is the servant of the righteous. Fear me. Die, heretics!
Hey guys, it's Merrick. I got another gameplay commentary for you here today. In this one, I'm going to be playing Planetside 2 on VS with the Betelgeuse yet again. My loadout's pretty standard. On the Betelgeuse, I'm running high velocity and forward grip, that way I can hit targets at medium and longer ranges. Everything else is pretty much the same. I'm running Sensor Shield instead of Survivalist, which is fine, which means I should be playing around the outskirts. I obviously don't do that enough because that would be smart, and I think we're about ready to jump straight into this. This session starts off pretty aggressively because as soon as I land at the Sunderer, it's already under pressure, with tanks everywhere, people pushing it, and the standard things that happen when I spawn at Sunderers. I push incredibly aggressively, ignoring the tank, but I didn't expect it to be this many people here, so I just kind of died because there's no way to take these all at once, and I spawn somewhere completely fucking different. I jump over to Ceres, but I don't really see anybody until I get all the way through the point, and then there's only some light pressure pushing out. Looking at the minimap, they're pushing up the west staircase, so I rotate over to where the party is. I catch one as I come around the corner coming out of a drop pod, and I'm trying to push up to this corner so that I can swing it tight on somebody, but somebody pushes up and I have to fall off the corner. I aggressively cut the angle to catch him before he can actually get the initiative on me again. Thankfully, his teammate next to him was also pushing up and gave me time to take him out as well. I'm feeling pretty fancy, and I try to do a fancy nade to get it to bounce over and land right as it explodes, and I almost blow myself up. But I'm able to pick off a few people that are jumping over the ledge, trying to get into the point from here. The positional idea is to be able to support the staircase in case it falls through or anybody leaks through, and potentially be able to rotate off. The little wall gives me a little bit of cover. I can peek in and out so that I might not be exposed when somebody peeks at me, and it gives me something to aggressively peek around if somebody tries to push. As the point is winding down, it is also increasing greatly in pressure, so I rotate inside to be able to help hold the point for the inevitable push that's coming. Once the push does hit, it's going to be absolute chaos, and there's really no way to guarantee surviving these. It's just making the best of a bad situation. In the ideal world, you'd have no external doors or anything pointing directly at you, so everybody would have to push in to fight you, but all you can do is keep shooting and try to be efficient with your bullets. We actually wind up getting pushed out here, so my immediate next goal is to run back to the point and take whatever fights I can, thin them out, and try to get back to the point. If you were fighting a larger group, you'd want to thin out what you can, put extra pressure on them and make it easier on yourself, and then you'd want to push up and try to push in, catch them off guard for those that are trying to pick up pieces before they can actually recuperate at all. I push up to make an aggressive push and try to run in and get whatever I can, but I'm actually hit by somebody off on the side who's just holding that angle. I go to an off angle so that I can pressure the staircase and get some of those free pickoffs from people coming in there, and I actually get hit by an infiltrator off the cliff. So, I go to a different Sunderer and already have friends there before I finish spawning. I take another spawn there and try to clear it out. I actually wind up running around for a little bit looking for somebody, don't see them, and then as I come back to the Sunderer, I get picked off again. A blue Sunderer has pulled up next to our purple Sunderer, and a clown car's worth of angry blue nerds popped out of it. Now you know what? I ain't like that fucking Sunderer anyway. Heading over to Crimson Bluff Watchtower, the fight is already in full swing by the time I get here. Shit has hit the fan and the tower is being sieged. I catch someone on the stairs, and I assume that means there's going to be more, so I try to cut the pie and get a good angle on them. But between having to shoot through teammates and dancing around to avoid dying, I can't seem to make a solid connection. A teammate takes out someone who is almost going to murder me. I get a single connection after this reset, and then I decide I'm just going to go for a flank, and I jump over the edge. I'm able to catch somebody immediately as I jump down, but as soon as I head inside, I catch a serious case of the dumb, and I choose some very poor positioning, which doesn't allow me a whole lot of access to enemies, and makes it very easy for me to get flanked. And while I was paying attention to all of that and how easy to get flanked, I didn't realize that my team doesn't actually have this platform above me.
You are a lord of disgrace.
On my next life, I jump down and flank around the other side, hitting the side of the front door. I get a much better flank, but I'm actually killed by an enemy up on the hill behind us that I didn't even see up there. I don't know if the guy who placed that barrier was trying to do 6D chess on a checkerboard, or if the TR actually intentionally and tactically pushed and took that, but they're using that barrier as a spawning point, and it's really not nice. I watch the hillside and try to let some of them push down so I can get pickoffs and try to thin them out a little bit before I push up. After a few seconds of it being clear though, I decide to push up to the barrier and see what I can find. I try to pressure this mosquito and I whiff horribly, but I do see somebody on this rock below him and I get a fight there.
No mercy!
Moving over to the Lowland Trading Post, even though NC vastly outnumber the VS, I'm showing up here right as they're actually setting up, so I'm able to get a little bit of an aggressive positioning. I'm able to pick off some of the Dragos coming in, able to threaten and pressure some of the Sunderers, and just be a general nuisance.
Witches and
I wind up
sorcerers.
trading 1-for-1 for somebody on the spawn of one of those Sunderers, but I continue to run back and be absolutely annoying. I catch someone looking the wrong way, just to have it reciprocated back to me, but off of the respawn from there, they're starting to pressure the Sunderer, and I'm actually getting a lot more contact with their infantry rather than having to chase them around, so the fights are starting to go a little bit more in my favor. Trying to stick near cover as I push up, I need to get this flag taken again, but I also want to make sure that the Sunderer is not going to die. Oh wait, it's already gone. My mission now shifts to being absolutely annoying and just tacking them as much as I can for it. Because the Sunderers died, it seems like most of them are convinced the fight is over, and I just keep walking around picking off everybody I can find as they trickle in. As I push up towards the point though, my team was able to actually flip it, and it seems like we're actually clearing the area out. But no sooner do I say that, than as a much larger push materialized. I take a shot at one infiltrator only to have another one materialize to the side, and I'm forced to dis and re-engage to win that fight. I catch two more, trying to get around my flank, and then as I take an aggressive push, all of my cover vanishes, and I make a bad decision out of panic. There's a lot going on there, so I think I can be forgiven, but the best decision would have been to run up to this wall and hug it as I try to get back towards where my Sunderer used to be, and take a moment to patiently delete that max with a decimator. From there, I moved over to Rash New Cavern and barely leave my spawn because TR had the point, and we were basically pushed up to our spawn room. It seemed like there were more VS spawning in as I was getting here though, and a small push materialized as we tried to get up to the point. I take a series of fights with absolutely no cover and lose, and have to walk back though, so they wind up doing it without me. By the time I get back, they've breached the tunnel mouth and is yet again a fight for the point. I try to flank around the side, and I run into a bunch of TR that have done the same, and we get into a fight along this corner. I don't exactly do it all that well here, but the general idea is to get the maximum exposure to a single target without exposing yourself to additional people that'll be dealing damage to you. An orbital's going off, and I wasn't actually sure whose it was, so I just ran to the corner. I was actually a VS one, so I didn't need to go to the corner, but it winds up pushing a lot of TR towards us, and we're able to kill them pretty quickly before pushing back up and re-establishing combat on the same corner again. Like I said, you want to try to fight one at a time, and bleeding them and taxing them is definitely viable. I take a fight with somebody on that corner, but I peek way too far out, and I wind up getting hit above angle that I wasn't aware of. As I managed to clear that guy out, they actually get flanked from behind as our team was able to grab the point and wrap around, but the fight isn't over yet, and we're immediately under siege from another large push. I peek out, see a Max hauling ass at me, and I immediately fall back to the nearest available cover. I get a little too excited and I peek out a little too far from the cover because I know there's going to be a push, but I didn't actually respect how large it was going to be. Thankfully I wasn't punished there, but generally speaking there was literally no reason for me to ever be that far away from cover. I also potentially could have taken a few steps out from cover here and used my teammates as a shield, but it's fine. I died to that nade unfortunately, but I'm able to get a res and continue to hold this position. The pressure is incredibly high, and I actually overextend my peak because I'm getting successful kills with it. I should have backed off before my weapon overheated, but because I have to reload, I have to fall off the corner for a bit. It doesn't actually cost anything, but could have been played slightly better. And around about this time, the pressure is staying incredibly high, and there's no other way to word what's going on than the time that I'm alive, I don't believe I should be, so it's kind of burning a hole in my pocket. Because I'm expecting to be overrun at any moment, because I don't think I should have been able to hold this point so long, I'm just kind of panicking, whiffing a lot of shots I don't need to. Here, I gunned down a Max when there was a few infantry I could have gotten behind him for a few more kills. It's nice that the Max goes down, and it's nice that we focus him down, but there are just a lot of things that could have been optimized about this to be better. But at the same time, this is a perfect example of how applying a high amount of pressure, even if you are not necessarily making gains, can force errors. And then those errors can be exploited to gain ground back, so just because something doesn't look like it's necessarily making progress, doesn't mean that the pressure is wasted. We managed to push them out of the caverns and back to their Sunderers across the road, but I overextend trying to get some pressure in there, and by the time I respawn, they've already pushed back and taken point yet again. I try to take a more direct route, being able to cut behind them, but the exact opposite happens. They head over the top of that exact building and flank behind me. So I head back to taking a flank route, but I actually have to wind up clearing out a few buildings on the way there. Upon review, I think I should have continued through those buildings and flanked back around to my exact same spot, but I think seeing those guys coming through there made me think there was some pressure along that route, and I was trying to get greedy. But while taking some angles here, I get picked off from an off angle up above, and I have to wind up running back anyway. So I take the longer route and do make it back to my box successfully. Although I continue to play a little too aggressively and reckless. I'm a little too far away from cover here, and when I push up, I don't actually fall back properly to the cover. I try to take an aggressive off angle to get another free pick or so, when there's no reason to. I have solid cover that'll hit an almost similar angle just next to me. I don't get punished for it, but if there was an example of putting yourself at a disadvantage for no reason, that was it. From here, I'm just fighting from an advantageous position. I'm trying to take short fights that favor me, trying to keep the angle tight to not give myself too much exposure, and also trying to make sure that I am being ammo efficient so that I don't get myself gassed out in case they do a sudden push or surge towards us. I'm able to hold this position for quite a while, as they're just kind of trickling in and getting taken out rather than grouping up and getting a big push together. But this is a really good example of how you can get good, consistent use out of your Jutsu. I'm not having to reload my Decimator, and if I'm not gassing out my Betelgeuse, then I'm able to keep a decent uptime and just have the Decimator basically on cooldown for either a kill on an infantry or to punish a max. When holding an angle, you also need to make sure you're being unpredictable, changing up your peak timings, and making sure that somebody can't just pre-fire you off the angle. And that's about the end of our session. We end this one 65 kills in 21 minutes. That defensive position was really nice to get a good farm and show a lot of what to do when you're able to take fights you want to do. I also played like an ape at some points, even though it didn't get punished, so I was able to point out some things you shouldn't do, even though they might be working or not necessarily look like they're negative in the moment. I hope you guys were able to get something from this. Let me know what you do like, let me know what you don't like, let me know what you think so I can improve these going forward. Thank you guys for the support, and I'll see you guys next time.